Okay, there we
Oh,
go.
Hangout on air is live. Yeah, Nyam Pasu to everyone on this wonderful Super Bowl day in America. Today with us we
Who's
got
winning?
Albert,
Albert's winning.
Hello? Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you.
and then we have
All right.
Nick.
Yo, I am not winning. Albert is.
What I think it's the Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons is winning right now. So, enough about football. We're here for anime. Yeah. And for today's talk, we're going to start off with a title I actually wanted to hear a lot about because I haven't seen any of it. Little Witch Academy. Yahoo! Little Witch Academy. So I haven't seen.
Right.
I've only seen the first movie that came out. Even though I have the second movie on
You
Blu-ray.
haven't even watched the second one?
No, I got it on Blu-ray. I even kickstarted it and everything. I got all the goodies, but I haven't even watched it.
So you're not going to watch the Nekopata anime when it comes out? Because you probably kickstarted that thing.
I did Kickstarter that. But so tell me, do I need to watch any of these movies before I start the series?
No, technically not at all. So they decided to go back in time compared to where the movie starts, right? And just tell it from when Akko, the spunky new witch, when she decides to join the academy. Was it the Luna Nova? Luna Nova. So, yeah, the very first episode is essentially starts when she's trying to get to the school and she meets her other her group of friends who eventually become a group of friends, including Latte and Susie, right? And they have a little adventure, and in fact, they find the shiny rod right off in the first episode. So it's
Lotte is the one that looks like Sapphire, right?
Sapphire. Sapphire who?
From Hibike and Phonium. For some reason, I think.
No, because her trademark is she wears glasses. But I guess, yeah, you can say like she's got curly hair. It's lighter color.
I'm sorry, I'm just trying to figure out who's who because it's been a while since I've seen it. So.
Right. Well, if you, I don't have a picture. So, yeah. Akko is the one that's always like the troublemaker, and she's gung-ho about everything and loves Shiny Chariot, the stage magician who she fell in love with and wanted to become a witch herself. Right. Latte is the one that can speak to spirits. She wears glasses. She's kind of a book smart, and she has her own personality quirks. Susie is the one that's always talking about poisonous mushrooms and various things that you can concoct potions with.
She's the one that relates more to a witch than anything, right?
Out of the three of them, yeah. Definitely. So, yeah, it goes back. Studio Trigger decided to do a TV version after they did the first movie, which was part of a project to give young animators a chance. And so that short film was released in 2013. Then subsequently, they kickstarted a sequel film project, and that came out in 2015. And then now in 2017, they've started the TV adaptation, and they have decided to go back and tell the story from the very beginning. And as far as I know, it is supposed to be a 2-course show. So 25, 26 episodes, I believe.
Not that
compared to the... Go ahead.
I was just going to say, not that it's a big deal, but I don't think the Kickstarter was what got us going. Right, they were always going to make it. They just used the Kickstarter to extend it, right? Because it was going to be the average 23 minutes, and then the Kickstarter was to make it 45 or something like that. To add that 15 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know all the behind the scenes funding, but part of it was to gain backing to make the film, because the way it was tiered, I believe, their stretch goals, the film became longer. So if they hadn't made any of the stretch goals, if they hadn't funded the project, would they have actually made the film? I don't know. But it's one of the first big successful Kickstarter anime projects. And, it opened up the possibility that this might be a viable means of at least funding initial development of certain projects, besides the traditional committees and dealings with, music companies and recording companies and toy makers. So I've been keeping, interest in how it does, and yeah, it is everything you expect it to be. Although I will caution that compared to the films, the animation quality is not film quality, but it is very good TV quality. So I haven't had a problem adjusting to it. I've thoroughly enjoyed the first 3 episodes, which is what we're talking about. At least in the first 3, animation is very good. It has its comedic moments, and you see a lot of blurring effects where you'll see hands shaking up and down, and you'll see multiple hands, or eyeballs moving around in surprise, and you'll see multiple eyeballs. These are all little tricks that they do. Yeah, the story is. I'm looking forward to the rest of the show and see how it progresses through each of the characters, and the side characters also, will get a lot more screen time. So we'll get a little bit more into their backstories and flesh them out as characters instead of being, the antagonistic witch, or the witch that's odd because she likes, to tinker with machinery too. The science witch or whatever. So instead of just tropes or one-dimensional views, I think we'll get a little bit more depth to each of the characters. So I highly recommend it.
Have you seen any of it, Nick? Or
I have yet to start it. It was kind of missing my scope earlier because I've been looking for anime in like 1080 quality lately, and that one is not one I can source in 1080. So there's a few titles this season that kind of started initially, but then the rest of them are going to air at some other time, and I just thought that was going on with this one, but I realized what was happening, so I have to start it.
So as for me, why I never saw it, and even though I really do want to watch it, is lately I've been watching everything on just Crunchyroll, whatever I found on Crunchyroll, or the other streaming sites like Daisuki.net and stuff. And I never saw this title, so.
Yeah, so we should mention that Netflix has the rights to it. And Netflix, does not drop series weekly. They drop the entire season, or in this case, it'll probably be the first core. So first 12, 13 episodes. So I wouldn't expect it till the spring season, at least, for any of it to show up. And as such, some subtitles are staying away from it because there is a official U.S. licensee. And no streaming site is currently streaming it. So,
gotcha. I will mention though that although I have watched the first and second movies, and even the little bit it showed up in that family show, the I forget what it is, but it was the space police thing that Trigger did. Where
a Ludico or something like that?
Yeah. Little Witch Academy hasn't been necessarily like one of my recommendable series. It's a cartoony, lighthearted thing to watch, but I don't know what it was about it. Maybe it was just like the obscurity of the world or whatever. I just never got into like the drama it produced, so maybe I'll get a little more enjoyment out of it with a back character with side character explanation rather than here's this plot progression of something going on and we'll resolve it by the end of the movie. Like I'm not bashing on the series. It just wasn't. Although I have watched it, it just sits at like more above average on my list instead of like I recommend you watch it. But that's personal to my view. So
all right. Well, I hope to catch some of it soon. Hopefully, Netflix will get it out there quick and fast so I can watch it. That again was Little Witch Academia, the series. Next up, we got I don't have the icon, I don't think, for it. Oh, there
Not
it is.
even from last season.
There it is. I found it. Sorry. Rewrite. Yeah, Rewrite. The second season. That one. Rewrite
not really.
Edit. When Rewrite ended last year, I was like, what kind of editing is this? This is total. So, unfortunately, I haven't watched this because the first season disappointed me so much.
Yeah, well, you might find a little bit of redemption here, maybe. I'm not so sure. The initial episode or two is pretty jarring, in my opinion, but Rewrite the second season doesn't really cleanly pick up where things were left off, because, we did kind of have a really weird ending on that one. But as you'll notice in the title of this one, it's Rewrite Moon Chapter and Earth Chapter. Moon Hen, Terra Hen. So this one goes, I guess, into the game, which I've never played, and explains more alternate routes that players could have delved into the game. What I wanted to bring up was the fact that, it's not really a sequel in the true sense. You're kind of thrown initially into a new scenario where our protagonist, Tennoji Kotaro, is kind of realizing that he's lived a lot of different lives, and it keeps kind of getting rebooted. And sometimes he has memories of those certain lives. Sometimes, like, there's an arc memory of a point in time when he was around. And there is like an initial plot point where Kagari is doing something, and there's a little bit of a story there. But then that kind of ends, and you start jumping into, I guess he's either doing the same thing again, having a lot of different lives, or it's finally explaining a lot of the different routes. One of the two. I'd never played the game. So what's really interesting is you see Kotaro Tennoji in completely different lifestyles. And at one point, he's kind of a delinquent kid, and the cast of the harem girls, if you will, are elementary school kids, and he's just older than them all. And he doesn't really remember them, know them. He's kind of you recognize as someone who's watched the first series, like that is the cast of the first season, and he is older than them for some reason. Like what is going on in this route? Like what is happening here? And that's what I think makes this one at least viably interesting, especially if you didn't like the first season. But it is a little jarring because it tends to jump into sporadic bits of story, and it's not super well explained, but it does a fine enough job.
Huh.
Yeah, like there was this one fragmented memory he had when he was like in the army too. That was kind of funny.
So, like, I kind of want to say that the first season was like the bad ending of the whole game, or something.
Perhaps,
Like
I don't
that.
know.
So, are these alternates that you're talking about? Are they coming to a resolution? Or are you just seeing a bunch of different possibilities that are going on right
I
now?
think at some points you're watching some of the possibilities, and so far there's been kind of one questionable resolution. But this whole thing is yet to play out, so I don't know exactly what it's going to be doing the rest of the time, and I'll have a much more concrete ideal towards the end. But initially there was a story that it kind of had, and then that resolved, and now we're like exploring another route. Either one of the two other chapters. I don't know. Like, I got to figure this thing's pacing out by the end, but it's either this is the second story and it started on episode 4 for some reason, or there's like 3 stories in this particular season.
Huh.
Or maybe it's still part of the first story. It just doesn't seem like it yet. Like I said, it's kind of jarring, kind of confusing, but it's interesting to see like a recasting of a lot of the characters in different roles and perspectives. And I don't really get to see a lot of shows that do that, so that makes this one a little bit interesting to me.
All right. One quick thing then. One more question is the ending and opening. I know in the first season, the first ending was, I liked it a lot. I thought it was really cool looking. How are they doing this season?
I'm not sure. I don't know if I really remember him at this time. Does it have one? It might not. If it has one, it's just not something that at least wowed me.
Okay. Ah, sad face. I actually liked it. So that was Rewrite. What did you call it? Rewrite Second Moon and Terra.
Well, the second season, Moon chapter, Terra chapter. That's like in its title. Like, you can kind of see it.
Like, it's backwards to me. So.
Yeah, Moon kanji, Terra kanji.
Ah, that's how you spell kanji. Just kidding. All right, thank you for that. I actually might, I guess, pick it up just to see if I can at least stand it. Because if it was just retelling of the same story, just different ways, I don't know if I would have liked it. But since things are totally different,
yeah. Like I said, and where I'm at right now, around episode 4, he's kind of like a delinquent who hunts down the monsters, kind of similarly to how he did with like the glowing blue blades, but now they're kind of blood blades. And he's not technically a nice guy, but he's not a bad guy either. And it's interesting to watch his interactions with the younger characters, and I don't know if he really recognizes them as who they actually are or not. Like, I don't know how sentient he is about a situation, because like sometimes his lives are kind of separate, and then some other times like he kind of has an awareness of where he is in a certain timeline. So like I said, it's a little bit jarring. In the first initial story that started before this recasting of characters, as I kind of call it, that's not what actually is happening, but him and another character actually mentioned that they had to pull all their multiple selves together to like gain a lot of power for what was going on. So it's kind of crazy shenanigans, but
Okay. I just have to say, this halftime is crazy. Okay, let's go to back anime. We got this Konosuba, yeah.
what you do if like Japan had like animated a halftime one year, like the Super Bowl reaches out to Japan. We'll get a jumbo screen and just do something anime.
Konosubarashi sekai ni shufuku? No, shukufuku? Whoa?
Whoa.
Whoa, dude. I just have to say, Konosuba with its little eye catches when they go Konosuba, is so cool still. What do you have to say about it, Albert? Can Albert hear me or?
He hasn't told me.
I think he just typed.
I can't.
Nick, can you?
I can hear both of you, I think.
You're
Yeah.
totally breaking up for me. So
That's strange.
Hold on a sec. It might be on my end. So let me make sure I don't have anything running in the background. I thought I shut everything off except for this. Yeah, I think I did. Maybe I'll.
Oh, they were using drones. I'm sorry.
Is Lady Gaga on top of the dome?
She
Is that what's
was.
going on?
She was, and there's these blue and red lights and all sorts of crazy stuff going on in the background. So I was like, how did they get those lights up there? Is there mist? And now it just closed up, and it looked like there were drones flying around making those lights.
Okay, so back to anime.
Yes.
All right, I think I figured it out. So, yeah, Konosuba Season 2. Konosuba was a show that I actually picked as best of, like, my top 5 favorites from last year. The reason I picked it is because it did something different than the trope-filled, oh, I'm in an alternate world, summoned to a different world trope, right? That is so popular in light novels. And instead of having the hero have some sort of special power that's eventually going to defeat be a demon king or an evil magician or whatever, here in Konosuba, you have the protagonist who is a completely average, or actually less than average, Japanese, high school student who actually hasn't been going to school, and he shows up, and instead of having powerful magics or a powerful weapon or super abilities or super skills, he has none of it, right? And he has to start off reality as a complete noob, like he is a noob in every sense. Yeah. So I found the first season to be very enjoyable. It's hilarious comedy, and most of it is making fun of the protagonist and his situation, as he tends to attract very weird companions, right? A wizard that can only fire one spell a day, or the crusader who is actually a complete masochist and can't hit anything with her sword. So all told, it was very enjoyable, and I was looking forward to the second season. And the second season starts, and then right there in the OP, you get something like this, which I hope you guys are seeing. Right?
I see.
Yes.
Yeah, and you're like, whoa, that quality might be a problem, because the animation is done by Studio Dean, and Dean is kind of known for taking over like sequels, and the animation quality tends to be subpar. So, for example, most noticeably, Log Horizon 2 went from a different studio to Studio Dean, and people complained pretty rightfully that the animation quality in the second season of Log Horizon was not very good. And it's simple things that you might notice, like, hey, these characters have no shadows, or they're really off model at times, or there's a lot of faraway shots, so you don't have to put a lot of details in the facial expressions and things. All of that. So I was a little bit worried because this is the second season, but in fact, it's not that bad. The story picks up right up from where they ended at season 1, where they appeared victorious, fighting off a giant threat to their town. But as a result of that, Kazuma is arrested because he's suspected of being in league with the Demon King's army, because he essentially caused a noble lord's house to blow up as a result of his actions fighting this gigantic monster attacking their town. So that's an interesting take. Um,
Are you switching pictures around, or
No.
no, why? Is it?
I heard your mouse clicking, so I thought you were trying to change it, and I was wondering if your screen froze.
Oh no. So
Okay.
I will change it now. I was opening up a different tab. Oh, that's a pretty sensitive mic if it's picking all that up. All right, so yeah, animation, they're doing it on purpose. So this is a scene from the OP. Darkness is the Crusader, the masochistic Crusader. Excuse me. And then the very next like panel, you see this kind of derpy off-model looking caricatures, right? And it's completely on purpose. They intercut this between like the good animation and the poorly drawn animation. It's like they're making fun of themselves because in the same OP sequence, you know, you see Megman doing her explosion magic, that's her only magic. So I'm not sure if that's the correct terminology, but you see her doing her explosion, and it is, you know, gorgeous animation as per usual. So, yeah, they know, you know, that they're known, that the reputation is that they tend to not put as much quality into the animation, but they know that. And they are actually kind of playing around with it, it seems like. Because there are episodes or sequences in episodes where it just looks like, you know, it's an outsourced sequence. I'm not sure it is. And because where it counts, like the explosions or certain action beats, yeah, it actually looks pretty nice. This is where the characters just look derpy, and it's accentuating the comedic moments. So if you like the first season, you know, I think you'll like the second season. Be aware that some of the modeling may seem even more off than it was in the first season. But nothing wrong with that. The story is progressing fine, and each of the characters have their own little weird quirks that they are continuing to build. And you also meet, I think it was in the second episode, new character, a self-proclaimed rival to Megami Union. So she was in the OVA, but officially she's introduced in this second season. So you'll see additional characters, and I think later in the season, maybe pretty soon, we'll be meeting one of the other Demon King generals, you know, and such. So the story and the scope and the setting and the characters are expanding, but in the meantime, the comedy is gold.
So, just to mention from the last hangout, I made the joke that that the reason the show had some areas where the quality was low and stuff was just because they're spending all the budget on the explosion animations.
Oh yeah, I mean, no doubt, right? You look at things like, I think this is from episode 3. Yeah, these are all from episode 3. Look at that. Look at that, gorgeous. That's also from episode 3.
Yeah, what was it like?
Yeah.
Bakuretsu. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's also from episode 3. And that's also from episode 3. So ridiculous amounts of gorgeous animations, you know, and the explosion, just to say, screw you, we know how to do animation. And then they do really derpy off-model things when it comes to comedy. So
yeah. The only other thing I'd like to mention was the way that they, how do you say it? The way they brought back the information for the first season to catch you back up in the form of a trial. I thought that was great.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just doing this is what happened last time. It's, here's a trial, here's the problem, and then they kind of show you everything that happened. I thought that was really great.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of telling the story within the story, context of the story. And, you know, in that sense, it made perfect sense, because the prosecutor, the judge, they don't know what happened, right? And so it makes sense that those characters are telling as if the other characters do not know about what happened. So that makes sense. But what I don't like is when, some story element or backstory is introduced that everyone should know about, and it's completely explained just because the viewers don't know about it, right? So yeah, they are doing a pretty good job, and I think I think most people will enjoy it if you enjoyed the first season.
You definitely have to watch the first season though before you start on the second.
Nick, have you started watching this season?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I haven't read the light novel source, so like I didn't know if it was faithfully following it or not with the transition to Studio Dean. Because I was kind of hoping that the show would get going. Not that I'm having an issue with the comedy or anything. It's just they're like, we got to get out of this town. We got to go fight that bad guy, and I got to get back to my thing. And I'm starting to get to the point where it's like, are we just gonna is the whole story gonna take place in the town, and we're never gonna go away from that? On one hand, I do like how we're still progressing Kazuma as a character, and somehow he is still leveling up. He's acquiring new skills. We see some of the weird thing he picks up because as he brags, he's the adventurer class who can source skills from any class. And as someone who played games and whatnot, that's a I should be okay. Never mind. That was an interesting aspect, and I do kind of like how they're bringing new breath to his skill set, and the gags are still funny. A part of me still wants them to get going sooner, but as long as they're faithfully following the story, then I can't really have a complaint.
Kuzuma. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
I may have mentioned this the first time we talked about this for the first season, that I did read a little bit of the light novel, but unfortunately the translation was so bad, or maybe it wasn't even the translation, maybe it was just written poorly. So unfortunately I can't tell you if it did follow or anything.
Yeah, because with the studio handoff, I would assume that they're following the story still, and this isn't any bit original to them. But as a non-reader, that's only my speculation. I can't really say legitimately what's going on. But you know what I mean. Because a part of me in the first season, it was all about, gosh, we're stuck in this town, we got to get out, and it's I wonder if they're going to still be there by the end of the second season.
I see. Well, let's go ahead and go on to the next title, okay? Masamune Kun, sorry. No Revenge. So Masamune's Revenge.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, delicious revenge.
I've never tasted revenge.
So I've only seen, I think, maybe the first 2 episodes. I can't remember if I did hit the third.
Mm-hmm.
But what are you liking about it? Or what did you want to talk about?
Well, yeah, I just wanted to bring it up as a show that at least intrigues me somewhat. So Masamune-kun no Revenge takes place around the initial part of the story is explained is, our protagonist, Masamune, as a child was, a pretty chubby little boy who went up to a young rich girl and I guess asked her out or to be his friend or something. And at the time, this girl is actually explained later that she's really shy, doesn't want to make friends because she views it as a weakness of sorts. She has a horrible knack of making bad nicknames for people and dejecting them in front of their face. So since he was a little chubby kid, she came up with the name Pig's Foot for him, or just piggy or something. I don't know. And, you know, that caused this guy to really redo his life. He became a health nut. He studied hard, became really smart. And it was his ultimate goal to become this unrecognizable person, to eventually meet up with this girl again later in life, get her to unsuspectingly fall in love with this really suave, really smart, really fit character, and then turn her down the way she did him. And like that's his whole concept of revenge. But like, you know, 4 episodes in, and we are already derailing from that concept. I don't think it's necessarily just about revenge anymore at this point. What's interesting is I wouldn't have called it a harem right off the bat, and I'm still not personally sure I'm ready to give it that. While he is trying to win over Adadaki, Adadaki, not Adadagi, if that sounded like that, Adagaki is her name.
You bit your tongue, right?
Yeah, right. That was a Monogatari moment where I had to say, no, not that, this. Anyway, the interesting thing is she kind of has the servant character who, you know, waits on this rich girl hand and foot at her command, because it's like your family has served my family for years kind of a setup. And she actually meets behind the scenes with Masamune to actually help him with his plots. So it's like the really cool thing here is like the servant is kind of, you know, playing the Cupid or the devil's advocate at the same time against the person she is serving. So like that's kind of interesting. Like I like that element of it. And then like where I'm at right now, right around episode 4, another character is introduced to the mix who, you know, just basically throws herself upon the main character. Like Figment's this total fake backstory that didn't happen to tell people. And he's like, you know, how do I know this person? Where is she from in my past? Why does she like me? And he's trying to figure out this character right now. So right now it's just kind of like a love triangle, and I don't think it's going to go beyond that, but who knows? There could be more girls in the run later. But a funny aspect of the character that is Adadaki at this time is that at some point she developed some sort of a trauma in her past, in her, you know, childhood, where I guess maybe it's because she hurt this main character, but she developed this weird psychological metabolistic condition where she constantly has to eat, although that's not making her, you know, like chubby, like she originally made fun of the main character for. She's constantly trying to hide from a lot of people to not let like stomach growling sounds come into their perception, because that would kind of break the not illusion, because she is, but that the whole rich girl aura, if you will. So I do kind of wonder how that's going to, like, is that a point that's going to get absolved by the main character by the resolution of this first season? Because it just seems to be there for a plot point. So I'm also wondering, like, you know, how that's going to be resolved, and that's just kind of a hook of sorts that they implemented. So, you know, maybe you don't care for this show at all, but at its, oh, excuse me one moment. Hang on. All right, sorry about that. Someone came in. But I do like the comedy of this show. And if you've liked, you know, nisekoi, stuff like that at all, I would think that you'd be able to tolerate this one, but you know, that's kind of for you to decide.
I see. I don't know if I would say that. I've been watching it. Nisekoi's way better.
Yeah.
But as far as I thought this show was kind of progressing kind of quickly. Mm-hmm. Or too quickly, especially like I think by the second episode he was already rejected or something like that, right?
Yeah, like I said, like because like although the show is called His Revenge, like I do think by the second episode that we kind of are broken of that illusion already. Like, I think it's gone past what he hopes for, just revenge, and there is another concept at play here, and that's what's really intriguing me to the show, aside from the comedy and just the story itself.
All right. But yeah, I mean, it seemed interesting enough, but just because I was expecting a little more planning, a little more ingenuity from him, but it's not coming up. And I don't know.
Well, a lot of like the show's charm point comes in kind of how vindictive Araragi can be at sometimes. The girl Pranag. I know it sounds like Araragi too much because the name is so close, but she tries to deject the characters a lot. Like everyone else, she holds everyone else at a distance. So dejection is her like best skill. And sometimes the main character puts her in a spot where she cannot reasonably deject him, or immediately want to turn around and get some sort of revenge. And she's kind of a klutzy character. So, her best skill in her repertoire is her sharp tongue. And whenever she tries to do anything with not involving just talking, that's where the show's kind of comedy is. That's like the flopping of her ability to pull something off, not just by using the sharp tongue. So,
okay. Well, honestly, if I wanted to see this kind of relationship or the kind of feel that I would enjoy, it would be that Stony Cat and the Hentai Prince with Azusa. I think that was a whole much better version of her. But.
Yeah, but like examples of what I'm talking about is at one point her assistant person, her name I believe is Fujinomi. No, that's the other one.
It's gotta be
Kawai Yoshino. Yoshino is her name.
Okay.
She sets her up for a date with the main character because like that's a payment for a lost test or something. They had a contest over this test, and she finds this newspaper article that claims that on your first date you have to cosplay. So she dons this magical girl cosplay and is going on a date with the main character, and he's trying hard not to laugh and not to let her feel embarrassed. Because, like, according to this article, this is the norm. And, in her perspective, he's kind of flubbing because he's not in costume. And and in one of the more recent episodes, they have to clean a pool for some reason. So, he splashes her with the cleaning hose, and, the hose is not on her side. So her big thing is she gets a bucket of water, and she literally starts walking, like, at a turtle's pace, walking towards the protagonist. And he's just, like, watching her, like, what are you doing over there? And she tells the guy, I'm going to accidentally spill this on you, as she's, like, struggling to get this bucket of water towards them. And he's just sitting there, like, I don't even know what to do. Like, what's, like... and that's, like, where a lot of the comedy from this show comes from. Like when the characters are obviously setting up plots and to watch the plots fall apart, or just to understand the almost idiocracy of kind of like what has set up and what's going on and what these characters are believing. So
I see. Okay. Almost makes me think of something I would cringe to every single time. Like, oh, no, don't do that. Oh my God, I can't, Sometimes when I see shows like that, it's like, oh my God, I just can't watch those.
But it does have its moments. It is also still kind of a romance, not really, but kind of. Like it has that element to it too. It's like sometimes there's some pretty heartwarming scenes in the mix of what I consider comedy and other stuff. But
all right, let's go ahead and go on to the next title. And it's Kobayashi Chi no Maid Dragon.
Yes.
That's my cutout I made for the title. I like it so much.
Nice. You're gonna
This,
do some Kyrie?
oh yeah, I've actually seen some really, really good kitty of this show so far.
All right. So the English title is Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid. And when I first heard the title and saw some images of this, I had like zero interest. I'm like, oh, great. It's a maid fetish, but crossed with like dragon fetish and, cosplay, whatever. Don't care, right? And then, like, once the season started, I started hearing things like, this is actually a OreAni show. Kyoto Animation is doing it. I'm like, oh, well, that changes things, So that got me a little bit interested. And then on top of that, I learned that the series is based on a manga written by a guy named Cool Kyoshinsha, who also did I Can't Understand What My Husband Is Saying.
Like, I thought it was by that studio before I knew it was KyotoAni too. Oh, they did this show. That's cool. But then
so what you see is the cover art for the first manga volume. And so there's Toru, the maid dragon maid, and then Miss Kobayashi, who looks like a guy but is in fact female, and she's a programmer. So so that got me curious to see what the show was all about, because Kyoto Animation is known obviously for their on time, on budget, gorgeous animation, and then I really enjoyed the short anime series. I Can't Understand What My Husband Is Saying, because it's hilarious. It's very dry sense of humor. It's looking at different cultural clashes even within the show between the husband who's just at home but doing web design and earning a living, while his wife is a typical office lady going off to work, and how these two ever got together and is still managing to have a successful relationship. That was a really enjoyable show. So I decided to give it a try, and I'm glad I did. So character design wise, they did KyoAni does what KyoAni does best, and they adapted it to look really nice. It's a really small resolution, but whatever. And the show follows when Toru technically comes from a different world and is seriously injured, mortally wounded, you might say. And Miss Kobayashi finds her while in a drunken stupor and saves her and offers Toru a place to stay. And if so, she should become her maid, right? And so that's what she does. And hilarity ensues as other beings are attracted to them. Other dragons start showing up and trying to understand, this dragon. Toru is a chaos dragon and is known for, being able to destroy worlds and universes, and why she would submit to being someone's maid. And it's really offbeat. So what I enjoy about it is not just the animation, which many people have written about. It's gorgeous backgrounds and good use of integrating some of the CG in that you can't even notice it's CG.
There's CG.
Yeah, some of the sceneries, and especially the background, like buildings and things like that, they're CG. They're integrated. You won't even notice it. So if you want to know more about it, you could go to the Sakuga blog. This show episode by episode, but you'll see things like this where Toru complains about not being able to really stretch out and enjoy bath because she's in her human form. And so Kobayashi, right there next to the middle pillar, is actually washing her like she's a car. There's a little rainbow. Cute. All right. Other things that enjoy this. Eventually, another dragon shows up, and it appears she's actually stranded in this world, so they take her in. And so this starts becoming like an oddball family moment. And that's actually quite enjoyable, because if you look at it like that, it's just different people trying to get along and be part of a family. It's kind of a heartwarming tale. So, yeah, it's if you're a fan of KyoAni and their offbeat properties, I think you will enjoy this. If you're a Sakuga animation fan, yeah, KyoAni. So once again, if you are a fan of the original manga, which there are 5 volumes out now, you know where the story is going and the kind of humor that it contains. So you'll be able to enjoy that. And yeah, overall, I'm really glad I checked it out, and I will continue to watch it.
Very, very good show. To me, it's the sub this season.
Yeah, it's definitely amongst my top, and I believe you probably talked about this one already, so I'm probably going to jump in right now and just say that a lot of the enjoyable points for me was how it's just kind of blended, the humor of having these really powerful dragons shrunken down to this human form, and kind of how much power they're able to get out of this form is being answered in this show. It's when it's not doing comedy, it has random moments of like really cool action, and just that blend of those heartwarming moments, the comedy, and the action for like why not, it is making a really good show. I mean, I do especially like it when a lot more dragons join in kind of later, not to live in the residence. Like, I do like how this is a family, but you also have the visiting friends and the evolving comedy with that. So yeah, I definitely really like the show.
What show would you compare this to? Like, if someone asked, what does this closely resemble?
I don't know, because the only other thing that I would almost readily just bring up another comedy from this season, but like it doesn't mix the action in the same or anything, because like there is none. But
because to me, the uniqueness of the show, and they're different from each other, definitely. But Muraomi, that maid one, or the mermaid girl, kind of has that same feel to me.
Muromi-san.
Yeah. I think if you would have liked that show, you could definitely enjoy this show too.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what I would compare it to.
Because the comedies are very different. Because Muraomi seems to be more of a slapstick comedy, while this one isn't. But they still have that very strangeness.
Because the immediate thing that I want to compare it to, which wouldn't be fair because it's also airing this season, is that like interviews with like the demigirls, because it kind of addresses that similar comedy, and while there is no action, it does blend their specific circumstances into the show's comedy, which is kind of like what it's doing with the dragon aspect of all these characters. So the most readily thing I would immediately compare it to is also airing this season, which, I mean, I do like that show quite a bit too, but that's what I would give an immediate comparison for if you asked me, which you did.
All right.
Like, even with the lack of action, the comedy and the whole monster comedy stuff is kind of similar.
All right. So our next title is, Mitch, actually, you're watching this. Uh-oh. What happened to it? There it is.
Oh no, Invasion of Doggy.
Kimono Friends. Yay!
Yay!
Come on, children. It's time to hear about a story.
I'm
Tell
being
us.
visited by a friend until he sees the camera, and then he'll probably look.
Kimono Friends is definitely a child's show.
Yeah. It's weird because what I really want to talk about isn't necessarily, the quality of animation, because that's right out the window. So Kemono Friends starts in this really kind of bad pure CG character base. Like I can't remember the backgrounds at this time to try to think if they were CG or not. I don't think there's any 2D animation in that one, so I think it's just a pure CG work. It starts off introducing this concept that a girl has awoken in this savannah-like place that she kind of has amnesia, and she's immediately met upon a humanoid, an anthropomorphized, if you would, serval cat. So she really kind of find out in the series that this land is called Japati Park, a kind of a portmanteau of Japan and safari. And in it, a lot of the wildlife has taken on an anthropomorphized appearance, and they don't know what animal the girl with amnesia is. So in the first episode, you have a plot established that they're going to go to this library, which is really far away, so they could learn what kind of animal she is. It's not the best concept ever, but my enjoyment from it really stems from the oddity of the wildlife they bring into it. I didn't know what a serval was before I started watching this show, and then I Google image it, and it's like a medium-sized cat with a domesticated-sized cat's head, and it's kind of funky looking. And there's quite a few animals that I also did look at that were introduced to me through here. The one other one was a sand cat. I've never seen a sand cat before. And, pretty much like a domesticated cat, but instead of climbing and other stuff, they pretty much spend their time digging. Never seen a cat proficient at digging before. And I do Google image their like coloration and stuff to see how well they adapted it to the character design. But what's also pulling me into this story is you begin to get this idea that the world is somehow post-apocalyptic. Why are these animals awakening to personified states? There's also an alien entity out there that I guess attacks people for some reason called, it's not like it's like ceruleans or something like that. I forget at this time. But, as they navigate Japati Park, you instantly recognize that it's almost like, an interactive thing that people toured at one point, but it's in a really decrepit state. Things are very rusted, torn down in pieces and shambles. And, the wildlife has kind of reclaimed it in a sense. But we're met by this little protagonist, little blue thing that I think it's called Lucky, but a lot of the characters call it Boss, who is kind of the tour guide of the show. It talks to the main protagonist, who the viewers are supposed to get the idea that she's, human and not an animal. And that's why the little blue tour guide doesn't talk to any of the animals, but it does her. And as they tour this Japati Park that has not had a human interaction, it's like, to me, I'm wondering, what's the state of the world? Is there any more humans? If she is the only human, like, what does that mean? Like, they get this tour bus running, and then they're in the tour bus, and it's interesting to see the state of the park, and that's where all my interest is. It's not in the art, it's not in anything else. It gets me to look up animals sometimes. I'm learning a tidbit more about animals, but it's a weird show, but that doesn't necessarily make it horrible right off the bat. Like, I'm not recommending it, saying go out there and watch it, but it does have its redeeming points to me, and I can't say that I've seen another show try to do something like this. So it's original in that aspect, and it's sourced from a game. I mean, I don't know what game it was. If it was a console game, mobile game, I have no clue.
Maybe Tokyo Jungle. No, just kidding.
Yeah, like whatever game it is based off of, I have not played it.
All I have to say is I never knew a hippopotamus could look so sexy.
Yeah, and like the traits of the anthropomorphized girls kind of come through. Serval, has the stamina that she should. She could run fast but tires out, has to pant. Like a lot of the anatomy of the animal is integrated into these personified visages of these girls. But like it's just kind of interesting. Like, I mean, I like it for that reason because I'm learning a little bit more about animals. That's not my big point. My big point is like, how run down is this retired Javpari Park thing, and like what's at the end of this show? Like, I really want to know. Like that in the most recent episode 4, they run into I think like a creature of legend. They ran into a, how's it pronounced? Chichimikado or something like that. Like the little snake thing with the fat body, small tail. You know what I'm talking about, Albert? Or no?
Oh,
No.
I think I know. I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
There's like one episode that they were like just hunting it in this one series for a while, right?
Well, yeah, but like it does come out of like Japanese lore, and I don't know if I faithfully know its name to say like for sure or anything, but in the most recent episode, there was a personified visage of that creature, and at the end of it, she kind of, I guess, obviously had the hint that that's probably the, like, I think she's even said like the last human, or like humans didn't go extinct or whatever. So it's like, all right, someone's catching on here, what's going on, which it's nice to see in the series. But I don't even know why you'd go to a library and expect to figure out like what you are. It's like, and a lot of like, there's a cafe. They went to a cafe on top of the mountain. It's like, okay, well, who's running the cafe? And it's got to be staff, right? There's staff in this rundown Japati Park, right? No, it's manned by a llama. A personified llama, but a llama. Like they come in because they have to charge the battery. They have to charge the battery for the bus. They walk into this coffee shop and she's like, "Oh, customers," and they're like, "No, we're here to charge this battery." And she kind of like spits at the table. Like that wasn't animated. You didn't see it, but it hinted at the trait of the creature, and it was kind of funny. So like some of the voice actors are like the main Serval one. It probably isn't the most pleasant voice acting ever, specifically to her. She's really loud and like I don't know if that's supposed to be the curiosity of a cat. I don't know if that's just the voice actor or her trying to pull what she thinks this animal would sound like. I don't know, but it's interesting to see all these animals interact as people, and the whole plot concept of you're in like an abandoned tourist attraction that's like obviously out of commission. Like what's going on here? And like I said, that's my whole attachment to this series, despite it not being that great.
Okay. But it definitely does seem like a show very enjoyable for kids.
Perhaps.
Yep. Kimono friends, watch it for the hippopotamus. I swear, man, when that was a shock.
Yeah, it is kind of weird, but like I said, I have my own reason for having an interest in it, and it's not because like the animation is great.
I'm actually
this is a show I'm looking past that on.
I'm actually shocked with this title. What, Albert?
What?
Seiden?
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to briefly mention that because it seems like no one's talking about it. It's one of those. Here, let me turn the camera back on. So it's kind of a weird show in a sense because clearly the character design and all that, it reminds you of Amagami, which I don't know if you watched it before, right?
Yes. That's why I keep calling it Amagami Park. Brilliant.
Yeah, but I've only seen Amagami Brilliant Park.
Yeah, so I mean...
or Photokano, right? There's another one.
Yeah, it's the same game designer. And apparently it's loosely a sequel because it's kind of set in the same world like a sequel world, but it's many years later, so it has nothing to do actually technically with the actual Amagami series, except that it's 9 years later or something like that. Anyway, so yeah, Amagami was kind of a slightly, it's a dating sim game, right? It's an anime based on a dating sim game. So how good it can be, but it actually ended up being pretty good. Each of the girls got a interesting story arc, although a favorite girl got really shafted, I thought, but whatever. And
Was it the twin tail one?
I don't remember. All I remember was being disappointed in one arc because it got friend zoned basically. So all of that. So I thought it was going to be that formula where you're covering each girl gets like 3 to 4 episodes to cover an alternate dating arc, right? Where the main protagonist will choose that girl and then you would see what happens. And so I started watching it, and it looks like it's a 4 episodes per arc per girl so far. That's what it seems like. And I gotta say, it's everything I expected it to be. And then I know we're covering only 3, but I watched the 4th episode just to figure out where it was going. It's severely disappointing. Like the way they wrapped up the story made no goddamn sense. So if you're expecting another enjoyable, dating sim adaptation or some originality, something along the lines of Amagami, I'm not sure you're going to get it with this property, because just the way they're wrapping the storyline arc was really disappointing. So, and it does what one of the, it tends to have this element of the romanticness, right? Oh, we're apart and we don't speak for 2-3 years, but we're always going to be connected. Yeah, that doesn't happen in real life, guys. Sorry to say, all right? So I wanted to both, deck the guy and slap the girl because they're both idiots. And yeah, totally unsatisfying ending to the first arc. I might watch the second arc if I have time, which I actually do, because this season is pretty light on the number of shows I'm watching. But it's also a good time to actually catch up on actual classics that I haven't watched and really should. So I'm kind of torn right now.
Maybe I should finish Red Line.
Yes, you should. And that's not even a series. It's a movie.
It's a movie that you probably only have like half an hour, 20 minutes left in.
Truthfully, this show, I saw the first 2 and I'm like, okay, if it's going to be like anything, 4 episodes, I'll get my arc. And then I was going to just watch arc at a time. So you might have just saved me an hour.
Yeah, no, yeah, the 4th episode was just bullshit. That's all I wanted to say. So, I mean, even if you like dating sim things, or if you liked Amagami, I'm not sure this is going to satisfy your craving for a dating sim anime. It wasn't good. Next.
Okay. I'm sorry. Well, they just.
I mean, I never watched the Amagami SS thing, or the whole series, whatever. I can see where you're kind of tying it in with Photokano, but I do say that while I'm not talking necessarily about the resolution of the first arc or anything like that, I do kind of like how flirty the series is. You don't really get like anime being that grounded, like because a lot of times it tries to get too much involved with the school life and having a plot of some point. And in this one, it's just about these characters kind of meeting and interacting. And in those interactions, I'm finding some enjoyment. Now, that might change per arc, but, you know, I do at least respect that someone came up with this kind of romance story, and this is the vehicle that I'm witnessing it on. So,
if anything, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, I would say, well, if you wanted to watch a romance show, Fuka.
Yeah, I have to start that one.
It's probably going to be a better choice for you.
No, well, I mean, all I'm saying is I like the story anyway. Like, even if I sometimes don't like the resolutions or anything like that, like I'll watch the other one just because that one was kind of weird because I think like I got a lot of episodes in batch for it, and it's just kind of earlier stuck in my list where I've been catching up with like all the stuff as it's coming out. So I do intend to watch that one. I just haven't yet. But I'm just saying, like, what I'm at least enjoying about this series is that it is kind of like, you know, straight out of, to me, like a light novel, even if it is based off a game or something. Like, it is a story of romance that I'm watching in the form of anime, and at that front, I at least appreciate it. Like, if nothing else. Doesn't necessarily make it great, but that's where I'm finding happiness with it. So,
all right. Yeah, Fuka's a better choice if you want romance.
Why not both?
Because you'll be disappointed.
I don't get disappointed easily. If you couldn't tell.
Big Dream. Or, sorry.
I'm watching Kemono Friends. Come on.
What is it? Bang Dreams?
And this one, too.
Oh.
So, yeah, this one I initially heard of, and I just figured it was going to be another idol show, right? It looks like it's going to be another idol show is kind of what I thought, because when I first seen like a picture from it before the animation came out was when I found out it was going to be licensed in the card fight game Y Schwartz. So, you know, with them picking up this series, and because like a lot of their other shows that they have right now are idol shows, so I just figured it was because they got like 2 of them or something, I think. Regardless. So I figured I'd just try it out anyway. And, you know, it's not an idol show. It's this character who announces to her school on the first day she's starting at a new high school that she's looking for something exciting, if you will, like, because I guess she got excited looking at stargazing one day, and she's like looking to replicate that feeling. So she tries out a bunch of clubs and doesn't really find anything that interests her until she finds a line of stars going on the way home, just stickers that were just on random things. So she follows this trail and eventually comes up to, I guess, what used to be like a pawn shop or something. I don't know. I didn't focus on that too much. And she wanders in and finds one of her classmates there who has a lot of, like, a storage shed that had a lot of product for the shop when it was around, if it is around. Forgive me if I'm butchering that part of the explanation. And she views this star guitar that I don't know if she remembered it from somewhere or not, but that sets it into her. She runs off with this guitar, and the other character quickly in tow because she doesn't want her to like steal it from their house, residence place thing. And, you know, they go to this concert scene, and she gets swayed by watching a band perform. And from that point on, it's settled. She wants to start a band. Despite having no experience, she's, you know, holding this guitar for the first time. She's dead set on starting a band and is trying to recruit the nearest 2 friends, 2, 3, 4 friends she made who are kind of against being in a band, but, you know, her really bright and shiny attitude is going to eventually get them all into this band, and they're going to be a band. So it's, you know, like that. But one of the things that I kind of appreciated about it was its startup sequence. Like, you know, it's not a lot like, you know, K-On!, which wasn't really about music at all. In the 3rd episode, I was playing a sound clip earlier before we started the hangout. She has to go on. Well, she doesn't have to. One of the sisters of the core cast of characters is running late because they had a school trip. So a concert's about to end without them performing. So she runs on stage and starts singing a Japanese translation or the actual song of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, which I've never heard in Japanese before. And, you know, the character who's portraying this protagonist can actually, it seems to me, to be able to sing. Like, she had good enough vocals, and it was interesting watching her stall, and then eventually when the band comes in, instead of playing whatever song that they were going to do, they just do their own take on instrumentals for the background music of that song, and they pull her back on stage and she sings it. And I just like that personal progression. That's not just like, oh, we're doing this school activity just to do a school activity. Like, there's a lot of inspiration here, and it might not be the best band anime ever, but I at least like it, and I don't get swayed by idol shows that easily. So, or at least I currently like it. Who knows what it's going to be doing in the next few episodes?
Ah, that sounds just like Fuka again. Just kidding.
Oh,
Because they're going to make a band too.
Yeah, but like the show's really interpersonal. Like the trail of stars that led her there. The girl who was at the house who had the guitar, she actually took piano lessons as a kid, and whenever she would do well on her piano lessons, the teacher would give her a gold star, for good job. And how much of a trope does that sound like? Like that's something like reinforcement that you'd actually practically see in real life. And I guess she ended up getting so many of them, she didn't know what to do with them. So on her way home from school, she would just stick them on stuff. And that's what eventually made the star trail to her house that the protagonist followed. Like I kind of wish it keeps that vibe, but it's hard to say if once they establish the characters, we're going to drop that aspect of the show or not. Like, that's yet for me to be seen. So,
Interesting. The only other thing I have to say is you probably did. I thought you watched July and April.
Nope.
Okay, because they sang "Twinkle Twinkle Little Star" in there.
Well, I might have to watch just that one episode, see which one I like better, this one or that one. And the whole song didn't come across in this one, but I kind of like the Japanese version of "Twinkle Twinkle Little Star."
Kira, Kira, Karu, or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, and then, but with all the choices and all the titles you've been telling me about this season, I have to question your choices of anime. I'm sorry.
I don't care what you question. I view what I view. Typically, it tends to stick me about 30 titles a season. Like, I enjoy watching and analyzing anime to my own speed. I don't necessarily sometimes care as much about the animation because, studios had to start from somewhere. Some of them are known for their just inability to carry a consistent budget, but it's like, for me, I don't critique on the animation as hard. It's great when it looks really nice and gorgeous, but sometimes when it looks like crap, well, is there something redeeming about the story? To me, it doesn't have to be for everyone. Like, is there something I want to know more about in the story? Maybe Albert doesn't care about the state of Potty Park, but I sure as hell do.
Yeah, but I'm just sorry. Just you saying you're watching Handshakers is what killed me.
Like I said, I want to see Gohans do a lot of their crazy CG with action movements. It kind of looked a little bit like K had it a little bit. Handshakers, they're going a lot more off the wall with it. So it's like what is Gohan's doing here? Show me more of this unique style.
Yeah, but if it's just style, that's the problem, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you take the style, you crank it up to 11, and then it becomes an incomprehensible mess.
Yeah.
There's no sense of spacing.
But for some people it might be a necessity, but for me it's not. I just kind of want to see the project all the way through at this point. That there was something intriguing about it that made me go, I wonder how this thing's going to be from start to finish. And for me, the hooks are rather simple, but for that reason.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
suppose.
I don't know. I don't know. What
I'm
was
not
that
saying
one
my way
show?
is for everyone, but that's what I've always loved about this medium. Like, it doesn't always have to be this perfect expression of great animation with story. Like, a lot of times it's like someone had an off the wall idea, and even if it's not the best way to express it, like, was the idea itself that great? So for Handshakers, I'm more watching it for the story it's trying to tell more so than how it looks. But I also do have a little bit of an influence of, like, you know, I haven't seen this stuff since K. Have you guys found something cool? Are you doing anything differently? Is this going to be what we have to look forward to from now on? Yes, I like watching the history of this stuff unfold.
So the way you're saying things, it makes it sound like I like watching Trump because I want to see where it goes, not what he says.
Right, perhaps. Maybe someone out there is doing that, not I.
Oh yeah,
Well,
all the
okay.
comedians.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that was fun. Thank you guys for joining me today and show me some new titles. Actually, I may pick up that Bang Dream and check that out real quick and see. Other than that, Little Witch, I'm definitely going to watch. And everyone have a fun fourth quarter at the Super Bowl.
Hang on, there's like one more, buddy.
What? Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah. You even wrote that down. We got one more title. Shoot. Grand Blue Fantasy. I don't have a little icon thingy, so we'll just go with something that's blue. Here's the title that's blue. Yuki Yuna. Just pretend it says Grand Blue Fantasy.
Oh my God. All right. So just wanted to mention this. Grand Blue Fantasy was originally low-key scheduled for this season, but it got pushed back. So it will be airing next season. However, they did essentially broadcast premiere, or whatever you want to call it, preview the first 2 episodes that are actually complete. So this is based on a video game, if you can call that. It's actually for the it's a mobile game, so you can play it on your phone for Android and iOS platforms. It's been I think it's been a couple years, almost 3 years now, and it's a huge fan base, huge player base. Bunch of updates. There's a wiki that translates all the screens, so even if you can't understand the Japanese, you can play it. So all this effort went into it, and of course, eventually they decided to make an anime out of it. So, what's interesting is after watching the first couple of episodes, I kind of understand why it had to be pushed back. So, for one thing, the anime adaptation is it's actually produced by Aniplex, but the studio that's doing is A1 Pictures. And A1 Pictures, usually known for pretty good work, but always not. They're, I don't know how to put it, but it seems like every season they are always stretched. They take on more than they can actually chew, right? So, for example, this season they were doing what I do. I wrote it down in the post in the community, but A1 Pictures for this season was doing. They're doing Blue Exorcist. They're doing Interview with Monster Girls. And then on top of which they were supposed to be doing Grand Blue Fantasy, but that got pushed back, right? Next season, they're doing the new Eromanga Sensei and Saikano Season 2 and Grand Blue Fantasy. Last season, they did, web working. Utano Prince Sama, and Occultic 9. So every season they do 2, 3, sometimes 4 projects, and every season they have to outsource things, and this is probably no exception. And they made the decision, no, we're just not going to release it this season. We're just going to push it back, which is probably right. So the animation, at least for the first 2, gorgeous. You could tell that they put a lot of effort into recreating the color palette from the art style of the game. And yeah, the animation quality is good. The story is, typical kind of a mishmash fantasy world. I'm not going to get into the story and all that, but I'm just bringing it up to keep on your radar. If you watch the first 2 episodes, I think it's streaming on Crunchyroll. I could be mistaken, but I think it's on Crunchyroll. You'll be able to watch it. It's got, as many games do, they just pull all kinds of voice actors from everywhere. And surprisingly, at least for the main characters and the villains that have appeared, they've able to schedule all of them. I don't know exactly how, because many voice actors have different projects and different schedules, and to get those specific people back all together is hard. So I don't know if they're actually all together while recording, or if they've done things where each individual, kind of more like the Disney Pixar model, where each individual was recording separately and putting it back together. But it's a who's who of talents. The animation, like I said, is gorgeous. There is CG, like the monsters are CG, but that's also put together pretty well, integrated pretty well, but clearly CG. So it's and here's a still from the game itself. Cygames is the developer of the game. So you look at that and you look at this, and the kind of recreating the palette, gorgeous backgrounds and everything. So we'll see how it turns out. So if you're into fantasy stuff, or if you're a fan of the game property, definitely worth checking out. But we'll see if the quality holds up now that they've actually pushed it back. I'm hoping that the outsourcing is limited, and they'll have a good series. And I'm not exactly sure how long the series is scheduled for.
Interesting.
So that's all I want to say.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed what I watched thus far, so we could probably wait to give a better synopsis when a lot more of it's coming out, because it's not a game I played, so it's pretty well done so far, I thought.
I'm gonna have to find it, watch it.
Hey, would you mind if we flip back to a show? I want to talk about the ending real quick.
What show?
the Kemono Friends.
You mean Your Scum's Wish?
Yes. No, what?
Sorry. Kemono. There you go.
So I forgot to talk about the ending. It doesn't change between shows, but the ending sequence was kind of weird from and I mean the theme, the song that plays at the end of the episode. Instead of having any relation to the anime, I'm assuming somewhere in Japan there's an abandoned theme park somewhere, because we have a lot of them in the States too. Even Disney has one on one of their properties somewhere, an old water park they don't use anymore. The end credit of that one seems to be an abandoned theme park where it doesn't look too decrepit, but it kind of fit the theme of what the show was kind of about. And one of the interesting things about it is in every scene, they have an acrylic silhouette of, I think, a person. I'm not sure exactly what the shape is. It's very hard to make out because it's an acrylic silhouette. It's translucent. And, as a style piece, I was just kind of intrigued by that because, number one, someone's going around and falling apart amusement park that's no longer in use. And then, I've never seen an acrylic silhouette used before. I can't even make out what it is a lot of the times, but it kind of draws my focus into the show a little bit more, because I am a fan of looking into the history of parks that have just went not in use anymore. Like I like hearing about rides that are taken down, or eventually someone will slip into a park that's been abandoned because of a flood, and they'll walk around all illegally and just shoot what the inside's like. And that's something that interests me. And, that's, although it doesn't change episode to episode, that's the ending theme to that series. So it's kind of another personal interest I have in the show. But it's like real life footage. It's not like animated at all. That's all I had to say.
All right. That's it for today, right?
Seems like it.
Well, everyone join us next... Wait. Probably, yeah, next month, right? At the end of next month, as we go through the endings.
Although, isn't it probably going to be a few more months? Like, because an anime core lasts about 3. I guess we're into 2, so yeah, at the end of next month. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So, everyone have fun, and until next time, we'll see you later. Yay! What does that say? Magia by Kune?
Yeah, Magia Bakune. It's just hilarious. I think they translate it as "that's wicked" or something like that.
Yeah, that's what they were saying. That's their catchphrase.
Wicked.
We'll see everyone next.
I hope that replaces the Nampasu real fast.
Bye, B.
See ya.
See ya.